Hello everyone, welcome to Business School 101. The Group of 7, G7, and the Group of 20, G20, are informal governance clubs which hold annual summits of heads of state to discuss issues of global importance. So, what are the G7 and G20? Who are their participants, and what topics do they normally discuss? In this video, I will discuss these questions with you. Section 1. What is the G7? The Group of 7 is an organization of the world's 7 largest developed economies, which dominate global trade in the international financial system. They are Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the United States. Please notice that Russia joined the group in 1998, creating the G8, but was excluded in 2014 for its takeover of Crimea. In addition, China has never been a member, despite its large economy and having the world's biggest population. Its relatively low level of wealth per person means it's not seen as an advanced economy in the way the G7 members are. The EU is not a member of the G7, but attends the annual summit. Section 2. History of the G7. The G7 originally emerged in the early 1970s as a somewhat informal gathering of finance ministers from the United States, West Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. As the energy crisis of that decade was spooling up, U.S. Treasury Secretary George Shultz decided it would be wise to coordinate macroeconomic initiatives with other larger players on the world stage. Subsequently, nations such as Japan, Italy, and Canada were brought into the group. When the European Union became a prominent coordinator for the European Common Market in the late 70s, the President of the European Commission was also invited to participate. The G7 is primarily a venue for coordination, and the group has produced many decisions with global consequences. Since the beginning of the 21st century, due to the increasing share of developing countries in the global economy, the influence of the G7 gets slowly weakened, and the need for a broader global club is becoming more urgent. Therefore, the G20 started to come out. Section 3. What is G20? The G20 is a strategic multilateral platform connecting the world's major developed and emerging economies. The G20 holds a strategic role in securing future global economic growth and prosperity. Together, the G20 members represent more than 80% of the world GDP, 75% of international trade, and 60% of the world population. The members of the G20 are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, the United Kingdom, the United States, and the European Union. Spain is also invited as a permanent guest. Each year, the presidency invites guest countries, which take full part in the G20 exercise. Several international and regional organizations, such as the United Nations, the World Bank, the African Union, and ASEAN, also participate, granting the forum an even broader representation. Section 4. How does the G20 work? The presidency of the G20 rotates every year among its members, with the country that holds the presidency working together with its predecessor and successor, also known as the Troika, to ensure the continuity of the agenda. The G20 has no permanent secretariat. Agenda and work coordination is completed by G20 leaders' representatives, known as Sherpas, together with finance ministers and central bank governors. Section 5. What does the G20 discuss? Initially, the group's discussion focused on the sustainability of sovereign debt and global financial stability. Those themes have continued as frequent topics at the G20's summits, along with discussions about global economic growth, international trade, and the regulation of financial markets. For example, under the 2022 Indonesian presidency, the G20 is focused on 3 interconnected pillars of action: global health architecture, digital transformation, and sustainable energy transition. The 2021 summit was held in Rome. Topics at that summit included supporting small and medium-sized enterprises and women-owned businesses, the role of the private sector in the fight against climate change, and sustainable development. In 2018, Argentina proposed a focus on the future of work, infrastructure for development, and a sustainable food future. That meeting also included talks on the regulation of cryptocurrencies and the US-China trade war. As you can see, the G20's agenda has been growing over the years beyond core economic issues, such as financial stability and economic growth, to incorporate issues such as sustainable development, climate change, digitalization, women's empowerment, and migration. As a result, expectations towards the club have shifted from economic crisis management to the role of a facilitator for structural change on the global and domestic levels. As the G20 has evolved into an increasingly wide-ranging club governance structure, critics have raised numerous concerns. Section 6. Critics. In general, the critics of the G20 can be summarized into three aspects. Number 1. Inefficacy. Because the G20 essentially is only a forum for informal dialogue among global leaders, sometimes it is unable to solve global disputes or crises. For example, at the 2019 summit, the Japanese government introduced the goal of universal healthcare. No one doubts that universal healthcare is a worthy cause. But the G20 cannot actually do anything to help individual member states expand the provision of healthcare. Number 2. Inconsistency. Because different host countries keep adding new topics to the agenda, G20 group members have less time to spend on the topics from previous summits and discuss and track the progress. Therefore, many previous proposals and efforts could end with nowhere or very little progress. Number 3. Lack of legitimacy. Although the G20 members represent the vast majority of global GDP, international trade, and the world's population, certain regions are still overlooked to some extent. For example, many researchers believe that they have yet to include Africans in discussions of global issues that bear directly on their own economic prospects. Yet by consistently treating the region as a ward instead of a co-equal partner, the international community is undermining its own future interests. Please note that despite the above critics, most experts believe that the substantial effects of personal relationships among leaders on the creation of foreign policy. By gathering so many leaders together, G20 summits offer rare opportunities to develop such relationships and recast bilateral ties. Alright, that's all for today's topic. If you have any questions regarding this video, please leave your thoughts in a comment below. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.